us through what actually happened there and how can we protect ourselves as patients. Now, following the airing of the story, the Kenya practitioners and the Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board has issued a statement saying that the man featured on the story is not a registered doctor and that he is not a gynecologist. The association says it has previously had him arrested for similar incidents, only for him to be released. We shall repeat the fact that he has been operating clinics in Githurai and Zimmerman. Dr. Nelly Bosire, thank you so much for joining us in studio to help make some sense out of what's happening here. First and foremost, what's your initial reaction to that story?
I think to actually watch TV and watch a woman get raped on TV is probably the most traumatic thing that could happen. This is beyond shocking.
This man claims to be a doctor, obviously servicing many women and other patients possibly, but he was a gynecologist, so women were walking into that clinic. We see the vile breach of trust that has occurred here. What can we as patients expect from the board, because you also sit on the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board?
Well, first of all, I think information is one of the biggest tools that women need to arm themselves with. As a board, we are absolutely disturbed. This is not correct. The board registers practitioners, that is medical practitioners, that's all doctors as we know them, and all dentists in this country. Now, every registered doctor in this country has a license, and the first thing to establishing a practice is that this license must be displayed. Any facility in this country that is giving medical care is also licensed by the same board. And all these licenses are supposed to be for public display, for the public to actually be able to ascertain that the facility I'm seeking care from is not only open for business, but is also formally registered by the board. Now, one of the things we do is that to regulate the practice of this practice, we actually inspect these facilities, and every facility should have listed who is the person responsible. Now, in Kenya, it's not only doctors who are eligible to open a facility. Facilities can be opened by any person, but they must have the resident doctor who takes responsibility when we have these kinds of events. We also need to understand that even nurses and clinical officers are eligible to open facilities, but they have to offer services within their scope. Like what a nurse is allowed to do, what a clinical officer is allowed to do is not the same as what a doctor is allowed to do. And even amongst the doctors is a general practitioner, and then there's a specialist like a gynecologist, and each of these people have a very clear guidelines of what they're supposed to do.
Let's go into what they're supposed to do, really critical right now as we try to make sense and ask ourselves, how do we stay safe? A woman who has a male gynecologist, what would best practice be when he's actually, when he needs to take a look, when he needs to, examine the patient? What should best practice be?
Well, first of all, gynecology is a practice that you're taking care of women at a point when they're most vulnerable, because this woman has to really let go of herself. She has to expose herself to you, and that requires a lot of trust. It is not something that a doctor wants to wake up in the morning and just breach just like that. Now, for best practice, it's something that's practiced all world over. If you're a male gynecologist, even when you're a female gynecologist, it is best practice that you have a chaperone in the room when you have to actually examine this patient beyond just a general examination.
So, for instance, a nurse would be called into the room.
Yes, that is the ideal. That is the ideal setup. And first of all, even before you get the patient there, you need to discuss with the patient, find out why they're there to see you. You need to explain what you need to do and say, I need to do a pap smear. This is what a pap smear entails. That I am going to have you exposed, that we are going to put instruments inside of you. This is what you expect. Is there discomfort? You need to do A, B, C, and by the time this patient is getting on the couch for this procedure, she fully understands what it entails.
Very quickly, to all those watching, and particularly ladies who will be using the services of a gynecologist or any other doctor who will get invasive, you can ask for a chaperone, in fact demand one. That is best practice. Before we close the interview, use of general anesthetic or anything that renders you unconscious in a clinic? What are the rules around that?
Well, we do not have any need for general anesthesia in the outpatient clinics. Unless you're going into an operating theater, and the setup in the operating theater is very clear. There is an anesthetist who is responsible for putting the patient to sleep, monitoring them throughout the procedure and bringing them back from sleep and ensuring that they have gone through the procedure successfully and they're okay. There is the doctor who is performing the procedure. There are the theater nurses, the scrub nurse, the one who's giving the doctor the equipment. There'll be an extra nurse in the room who's providing whatever other supplies they need in the course of the procedure. It is a room full of people. Walking into a room where there's only one person who's putting you to sleep to do something, that is not right. In any way, it is not right.
It is not right in any way. It's not right. We've seen it's not safe. Don't do it. We ask the board, please, to ensure that it is continuing to act and to, suggest a partnership with police, a partnership with county officials and health officials to ensure that we are safe and that we do go to clinics where accredited doctors are in place doing the right jobs.
Maybe just to add on that, all doctors registered in this country who are retained and who are licensed to practice, we have a website, www.kenyamedicalboard.co.ke. There is a retention register tablet at the bottom, and it will list all doctors eligible to practice in Kenya.
Please repeat that
if you're in doubt.
Repeat that.
Let me just repeat that. www.kenyamedicalboard.co.ke. Any doctor in this country, irrespective of their specialty, whether they're here temporarily, whether they're here permanent, whether they're visiting for a short while, they must be listed on that site. Any name not appearing there, that is not a doctor who's licensed to practice in Kenya. The second thing is, if you're visiting a gynecologist, it helps to be accompanied. Go with your spouse, go with your sister, go with your mother, go with your friend. Company always also helps. Anybody in doubt, even if you're not comfortable with the procedure, you have a right to say no. You have a right to seek a second opinion just to be sure. And on top of that, the few people who seem to know this person well enough have actually said that this person is not just a doctor. This person was supposedly in nursing school and did not even finish the course. So we have a lot of these clinics mushrooming everywhere. Gynecologists take a lot of time to train, and by the time somebody is charging you 200-300 shillings, think twice for the kind of service you're getting. It may not be.
Thank you. We're taking a break. So much feedback.